ask the Scottish Government whether it will provide an update on the summit on tackling violence in schools.
Cabinet Secretary.
There are multiple strands to the Behaviour in Schools Summit. In June, I convened the first meeting of the Head Teacher Task Force, which focused on issues surrounding school exclusion. I chaired a summit focused on recording and monitoring incidents in schools on the 5th of September. This was an area of concern raised recently during parliamentary debate back in May. The next two events are currently scheduled for October and November. This approach enables engagement with a wide range of stakeholders so that we are hearing and learning from the broadest range of interests and experiences possible. It also allows exploration of the key issues in depth and for the work to be informed by evidence from the Behaviour in Scottish Schools research, which will publish in November.
Annie Wells.
I thank the Cabinet Secretary for the answer, and I welcome the fact that the first part of the summit has been held. However, this should have happened before the Scottish Schools returned. During the debate that the Cabinet Secretary mentioned, the Scottish Conservatives also called for an action plan to tackle violence and disruption ready for the start of the new school year, a new standard reporting system, a plan to address increasing issues with attendance and new guidance for school staff. Can I ask the Cabinet Secretary what work has been undertaken on these other key issues?
Cabinet Secretary.
I thank the member for her question. She raises a number of important points. First of all, reiterate the debate was held in May. I then convened a Head Teachers Task Force in June. The member will be aware that teachers are usually on holiday in July and August. Therefore, the earliest possible opportunity for me to reconvene the summit was September, the first week back. We will be having further meetings in October and in November. I'm really keen to work on a cross-party basis on this issue, recognising the support I thought we heard across the Chamber back in May. She made a point in relation to attendance. This is an issue I've been addressing with Education Scotland directly. I receive fortnightly updates in relation to national attendance. There are real challenges, as she may have heard during the debate in May, in relation to current certain year groups. So those year groups, for example, who were going through transition period during the pandemic are struggling, I think, with the return to formal education. There is more that we will need to do at a central government level to help support certain local authorities in tackling areas in relation to attendance. And I do recognise that point. I've also made clear that my priority is to use the summit process in its totality to identify solutions at school, local and national level to address the concerns that have been raised. We will use the insights that are provided through the summit process, but also that behaviour that comes from Behaviour in Scottish Schools research that will give us the accurate national picture currently in relation
Thank you. There is a lot of interesting supplementaries on this question, but the questions themselves will have to be very brief, as will the responses. First, Ruth Maguire.
Presiding Officer, preventative action is crucial to tackle this issue, and I note £2 million was provided to support prevention activity in 2022-23. Can the Cabinet Secretary outline what projects the Scottish Government are currently supporting to deliver this, please?
Cabinet Secretary.
The member is right to highlight this investment, and as she's outlined, the Government is providing over £2 million to support this really important preventative work, and that includes a range of programmes across portfolio areas, including the education portfolio areas, but organisations such as the Education Scotland Mentors in Violence Prevention Programme that helps young people to become part of the solution through peer education, and also taking a bystander approach, supporting them to positively influence attitudes and behaviours of their peers. The funding also enables Medics Against Violence to run a number of programmes, including its youth education programme and Police Scotland's youth volunteers to deliver its programme to young people in Scotland's communities.
Duncan Glancy.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. Under this Government, teachers are under more and more pressure. Classrooms are like pressure cookers. Class sizes have got bigger, and teachers have been left wondering when the commitment to increase their non-contact time will be delivered. So does the Cabinet Secretary acknowledge that fulfilling the promise on non-contact time is essential to addressing the environment in the classroom, poor behaviour and violence in schools?
Cabinet Secretary.
I have to say, Presiding Officer, the member paints a fairly depressing picture in relation to Scottish education. We have, of course, the lowest pupil-teacher ratio in Scotland, the highest pay for teachers in Scotland than anywhere else in the UK. And I think it's important also to say that we have the highest spend per pupil than any other part of the United Kingdom. We're investing in our education system. I recognise the call from the member in relation to class contact. Of course, I wrote to the member on this very issue at the very end of term, and I would seek to give the member a more fulsome update in the coming weeks.
Briefly, Willie Rennie.
I think the Cabinet Secretary did well before the summer to build a consensus across the Parliament on this issue. It's why I can't understand why she's excluded members of the Scottish Parliament from attending some of these summits. I want to hear unfiltered from teachers and professionals about the issues they face. I don't want to speak, I just want to listen so that we can make the right decisions in this Parliament. I want to be properly connected with teachers. So will the Cabinet Secretary think again about allowing parliamentary spokespeople.
Cabinet Secretary.
I think Mr Rennie has to recognise that in the course of this summit, teachers will speak very openly, and there may be a reticence from them to do so if they think that that might be used for political ends. And I think he has to understand that reality. I'm more than happy, however, to meet with MSPs across the chamber on this issue. I'm more than happy to look again at how we can engage MSPs directly in this process. But we do need to be mindful that these are professionals working in our education system, and they may not feel comfortable speaking out in front of a group of politicians if they fear that may be used in other ways, for example, in this chamber. I've been very careful in building relationships working across the education system across the last couple of months, and it's really important that we build trust, I think, with the profession on this issue. But I will explore with my officials how we might be able to engage MSPs more directly in this work, recognising the sensitivities of those who work in our classrooms.